All right, thank you for staying with Daybreak. Continue sending in your views at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. And let me bring in now Kagusha on this. Kagusha, was this just direct expressions and instructions from the president? Because we had him say in Naivasha, he said the members of parliament should pass this, and he said we are going to build houses. I don't want to say by any means necessary, but I am saying we are going to build houses. Good. And that is exactly what happened in Parliament.
Let me first of all just clear one or two things about what my colleagues here have said. First, Honorable Manzo says that there is a difference between what we have in Kenya and what is in Rwanda, because, and he cites that in Kenya, if you occupied the land and the houses are constructed, you are ejected and you don't get back there. They are taken over by other rich people. And I want to say that really would be a misrepresentation of facts. That is not the position. When the president came to Nyeri last week, we had a list of 70 people who occupied the Blue Valley land in Nyeri town, where the affordable housing are going to be constructed. And that 70 homes, or people who occupied those 70 houses that were demolished, are going to be getting first priority when it comes to getting into the houses that are going to be constructed. And that is going to happen across the country. If you occupy the land that a house has been demolished, then you get first priority to occupy those houses. When you come to even the social housing program, if we are doing it in Kibera, the people who occupy that land where that house is going to be constructed will be given the first houses. And really, that's how that program is. And so Kenyans should not get any fears out of what Honorable Member has said. He is asking whether they are going to get it for free. And what is going to happen, if you are in that house and you are paying 5,000 shillings as a rent, you are most likely now going to be paying 7,000 rent for ownership, not for rent sake. So you will pay maybe just slightly more amount for rent, and then you will end up now owning that house. It is yours. So once you retire, or your children, they will continue paying, and then you don't have to now take it back to government. It becomes
But don't you see the legal quagmire there? Because even governors are saying that the national government is taking over a role that is eventually theirs. Their role is not just to give the land. Then how do you own a land? How do you own a house in a government land? I mean, how does that work?
Those are legal issues that are being thrashed out.
Why are those supposed to be addressed first?
Yeah, those are legal issues that some of them have already been addressed in this law. You remember those are some of the issues that had been raised in court. For example, one of the issues that Honorable Member here has raised is that we are taxing even Mama Mboga, and we are taxing even farmers and all that. Are you getting? That they are being asked to pay for the levy. Remember, this was not in the original law. It is the court that has said you can not only collect the levy from the salaried people, you must also show how the unsalaried people are contributing to this fund. Otherwise, it becomes a discriminatory fund, even though we faulted that judgment. Because payee, what you pay as payee, is not paid by a farmer. You pay because you're salaried. A farmer does not pay payee, pay as you earn. But the court, in their own wisdom, still insisted that if you ask a salaried person to pay this levy and an unsalaried person is not paying, it is discriminatory. For that reason, what we have done is just to introduce an amendment where then we bring on board a bigger base now of all the people, even farmers and all that. But otherwise, that was not in the original draft. I want to also just explain a little on the procedure of passing bills in the House for the benefit of Honorable Oundo here, because he has stated that there was a procedure that was not observed and skipped on Tuesday. And what happens is that, like, this law had gone through the whole procedure of public participation. It had gone through that full hog. And what happens in the House is that should the House find it necessary to skip a procedure, then it introduces a motion on its own, and if members do support, then that becomes the procedure. And in this case, the House has observed all those rules and has, every other time introduced motions, and it's not only on this bill, in different bills. You introduce a motion to probably skip 3 days, wait, and you proceed with the reasons that we had already done this before, and we are only correcting something that has been raised by the court. And I also want to say this. it was very unfortunate that members of opposition, and not all of them, a few members did walk out. But I also have an idea of why they walked out. First, if you looked at the opposition side yesterday, there were hardly 30 members. If you looked at the government side, there were more than 150 members. So those members were very few. So it's very possible they saw that they were so few, overwhelmingly few, that they were going to probably be embarrassed to some extent by the government side. So I don't know why they are not, or they did not turn up for the session yesterday, and quite a number of them also on Tuesday. Now, I want to congratulate Honorable Oundo here, because he's one of the members who never walked out. In fact, they remained, I think with Beatrice Elachi, I think 2 or 3 members did remain. And they did introduce quite a number of amendments in these laws. And all the amendments these honorable members did introduce were given a fair hearing and a fair consideration. Now, what happens is that members who walked out, many of them had already introduced amendments in some of the clauses. But by them walking out, when we got to the amendment, they were called. Honorable so-and-so, amendment. Not in. Amendment dropped. So most of the amendments were dropped. But mind you, one of the amendments that went through was dropping of deposit that had been put in the law, that someone needed to pay a deposit to get the house. And that yesterday was dropped. I mean, it was introduced by a member on the floor, and members looked at it and agreed, yeah, this one we need to drop. So it's very important that members remain true if they have to be true to Kenyans.
Yeah.
If you're in opposition, if you're in government, you cannot walk out on your members who have elected you on the floor of the House. You walk out, you leave a bill that even if you don't support the outcome of that bill, you must be there to still make your contribution for members too. And that's why I congratulate Honorable Oundo here.
Why are you acting on direct instructions from the president?
Well, I am surprised that anyone would say that, that any member is acting on direct instructions from the president. President persuades and lobbies for his government bills to go through the House. Members of National Assembly are also members of government by the virtue of them being elected through the platform, like us, Kenya Kwanza platform, UDA platform, where we had a manifesto. This manifesto was discussed and agreed. You remember us launching this manifesto in Kasarani? You remember us at the gymnasium in Kasarani sometime when we were doing the campaigns. You remember us having meetings in all the county headquarters when we were doing our economy kind of outlook in our manifesto. We did have this debate well ahead of our election. And now we are in government. You expect members of parliament now to abandon their manifesto, to abandon their president, to abandon the bigger picture that we have? No. The members of parliament are seriously supporting what the president is putting on the table because he's not getting it from anywhere.
Okay.
The president is bringing these bills from the manifesto that we had and from the better plan that we are implementing as a government. And so there is nowhere in any way that members of parliament have been coerced or pushed, intimidated, arm twisted. In any case, we find President Ruto to be a very fair man because he gives us an opportunity to sit with him and have one-on-one with him. I'm happy, for example, for the last 7 days, I have had 3 sittings with the president, one-on-one. I had a bonfire with him in Nyeri, where we spent like 3 hours talking and discussing even the small issues. Then I went to Naivasha. Again, he came for a bonfire. I was there with him. Again, we had a lot of chat. We discussed about the country policies and all that. Then also about even my constituency issues. Then when we again went to Naivasha on Monday, by God's luck again, he came to the table where I was seated and he took lunch with us. And we were just there and he did not even choose which table he was. He came there, and when we were eating, you have chit-chat, and you keep discussing a lot of things, and in that manner, you break barriers that exist between presidency, members of parliament, and also members of executive. And this is what we need, so that all of us can understand where we are going, and we can work as one team, and we get to help our country to be able to get out of the economic quagmire that we have found ourselves in.
Fair point. Let me bring you Oundo on this. Yes. Now, did your members fail people by just walking out? Because what Kagusha is saying, the fact that they walked out gave a highway.
Thank you. For one, you remember when the president was, I think, in his constituency last week, he was very categorical. He instructed either him or another MP that Tuesday, mwende mpitishe hiyo bill, sitaki mchezo ingine, mwende mpitishe hiyo bill. So essentially, the directives were very clear. These guys of Kenya Kwisha are not acting on their own volition. They have been instructed.
I think,
they have been cajoled. They have been intimidated.
Listen,
just wait. Listen to you when you spoke.
You can't allow him to go.
No,
Kenya Kwisha. It is Kenya
Kwanza. Fine. Yes, let me use the word Kenya Kwanza.
You're all here to...
Yes, Kenya Kwanza. The Kenya Kwanza MPs have really do not even speak for their people, do not speak for themselves. They do the president's bidding. And he knows we have been there before. Even the very well-intentioned and well-thought-out amendments never pass the floor of the House because they have been told what to do. I am a land economist. When we were doing the national rating bill, I told them exactly what to do. Based from experience, a lecturer from the University of Nairobi, I told them what to do. Yesterday, when we came to the committee of the whole House, they passed some provisions in the law, in the affordable bill, that are generally anti-housing policies. I mean, from theoretical point of view, practical point of view, cannot simply work. And let me correct him. I am a second-term MP, and have been a very keen legislator. The procedure followed in this particular bill was flawed. And we raised the same on the floor of the House, and the Speaker, having been already now is actually part of the executive, could not even listen to us. The report of the committee was tabled on Thursday last week at 5:30 p.m. First mistake, even the time when that particular motion was supposed to have been tabled was long past. There was no procedural motion that exempted this particular bill from the provision of the standing order. None. And if there is any, he was not even there last week when the report was tabled, when the second reading began. That is a very clear matter. And we raised this matter in the last parliament when Speaker Muturi was there, Attorney General now the Speaker of the National Assembly. And he agreed with us. The second reading is not a reading in vain. It's not a debate in vain. They must be given time to go through the process. And then generally, the committee amendments are normally they come part and parcel of the report, committee report. This time the committee amendments were never contained in the report. Many members interacted with those committee amendments yesterday when the standing order paper was published on Tuesday at midnight. You know, you can see how flawed the process was. And ordinarily, when there are amendments, as many as they were yesterday, normally the Speaker should have ordered a winnowing process where the committee and those who have suggested the proposals amendment sit down and review winnowing. He does not know this. Winnowing, where we sit down, we review, we say this is acceptable, this cannot work, this is within the constitutional threshold, this is within public policy, and everything like that. And on another matter, ordinarily the practice has been the policy comes, then the Act of Parliament follows the policy. We have a sessional paper of housing that was passed in 2003. Yeah. It has not been amended up to now. So ordinarily, you should have started first of all by amending that policy. Yeah. And the policy was very clear on the intervention measures that we require to resolve the issues concerning housing. So essentially, when my colleagues walked out, and for good reason, Trevor can tell you, the committee of the whole House is just a charade. The amendments are drafted in State House. They are just told, you go and become a voting machine. And if you watch properly, normally they designate a member to carry a paper written on. No? Yes, so they keep on turning like this. As a robot. It's a robot. There's a robot. Yesterday, you'll see the MP for Molo standing up. You know, these guys normally have no thing of their own. He says, no debate. Even if you ask them, what are you voting against? Most of them, when you walk out, say, Now, Mheshimiwa, I know you are well-intentioned, you think through about it, but you now have been told that this cannot.
They tell you on
they tell me, I mean, that my friends, many of them look for me for mentorship and take them through how we do those things. So they'll tell now we have been told we have just to vote no, vote no, vote no, vote no.
Okay.
And you see, I sympathize with the senator that when he says that once they receive the bill, they will look at it. Me and you can bet once the bill goes through, once it goes through Senate, I would wish you could invite me with the Senator Mungatana. We see if there'll be any change at all from the text that have come from the National Assembly and what is going to pass
so
in the Senate.
Go as is.
I can tell you.
Maybe.
I mean, Parliament, to be honest. Trevor, let me conclude.
Mungatana will respond.
Let me conclude.
Okay.
Let me on this matter.
Yeah.
I can assure you that Parliament has let down Kenyans. All the amendments that we presented yesterday, none of the amendments of a private member went through unless it was sanctioned by Kimani Ichung'wah. The only one went through was to make it Sharia compliant. Only those two amendments. The third amendment was a consequential amendment saying that the chair of the authority or the board, whatever it is, must have all similar qualifications like the chief executive officer, because these models are technical area. And this, again, I had to negotiate with them. Tell them, this, you have no choice because this is a technical committee. And I come from that environment. This is what we need to do.
Okay.
But all the other amendments that were pro-Kenyans, none of them
Thank you for Honorable Oundo making it clear.
Let's hear
I wanted to come back and say, because I was there yesterday and I followed through what we were doing, and Honorable Oundo's amendment did actually go through yesterday. I don't know whether he consulted State House or whether he consulted Honorable Ichung'wah.
I did.
Or whether he did not have a brain of his own.
I did.
You know,
and you see,
Honorable
this went through because you talked to someone in State House.
One of the things you
is
must
that what
do,
you're confirming?
No.
One of the things that you must do is to be very careful belittling your fellow members and calling them robots on national TV when you know very well that you are being very dishonest with your presentations, that this was a charade. And you know very well, we took a whole afternoon, all the way to evening, and took so much
now
time.
Now you're eating into Mungatana's time. Let's hear what Mungatana
I'll
give you a chance to
Okay, fine.
Let's hear what Mungatana has.
Let me also just add my voice into this by maybe giving a different view of what my learned colleague has said. My colleague, Honorable Oundo, has said. You see, he says ordinarily there's got to be a policy paper followed by, a robust debate around the policy before we have the actual legislation. He's right, okay? But that is not, set up it's not cast in stone. Because look at something like the NADCO report and many other legislation. You see, sometimes you respond to the needs and the exigencies of the moment. So it is the normal procedure, but sometimes you will find that legislation will come and maybe even the old policies are already outdated and they're not conforming. So in this particular bill, because of the way that it has been discussed and it is all over the public. I remember they came to Tana River and Johana Ngeno explained what that bill was about, and our people also gave their views. And one of the things I personally raised in the public participation was the composition of that board that is supposed to be looking after these monies and everything. And I said that there is need for that board to have infusion from the marginalized counties. For example, we don't need high-rise buildings in our place. We have a lot of land. When you look at Mbotela estates here in Nairobi, when you look in Mombasa, we have estates like Tudor Estate. In Malindi, we have estates like Ngala Estate. At that time of construction, land was a lot. So single units were the way to go. And I believe in Tana River, we have a lot of land. So single units are to be cheaper, and probably if there is a budget for our county, we would want them to, instead of buying iron to put up, which is more expensive, to put up high-rise buildings, they could do, single units. And for me, I think the thinking must be infused from the board. That board is so Nairobi-centric, and even the amendment Honorable has introduced is to bring in technicalities, but it's not representation. So we will need, I know that when the bill comes, if that has not been captured in the House, in the National Assembly, I will do it. Now, about the question of whether the president gave directives on how to vote, I want you to trust me because I was there. I want you to trust Kagusha, Honorable, because he was there. We are not giving you a story. We are giving you what happened. Now, the president in that meeting gave his views, okay, and then invited members of parliament and senators to give their views, which we did. So members of National Assembly, members from the Senate, all of us raised questions and gave opinions on various issues, from security to issues of taxation to issues of affordable housing and so on, you know. And he also gave his views. He said, look, and this is something I want Kenyans to hear because it's important. We have a challenge of, we are churning out youth. We have 5 million youth unemployed. Now, we can grow this economy as we are doing, you know, as central bank statistics are telling us. But it is possible to grow an economy without growing the jobs. So you have to be deliberate about growing the jobs as you grow the economy. So he said, I have a plan. If you have a better plan, you also tell us. But one of the things that I think we need to do, and I think it is correct, we need to put this affordable housing to work, okay? That statement was cut off. But digital economy was also there. You know, that is why Owalo and even the members of parliament agreed to change the CDF Act so that it can give them capacity to build CDF, to build internet hubs in their places, which is targeted to create at least, eventually about 1,000 jobs from the internet, okay? Number 3, we said that labor migration was also another thing that we needed to do. So the Minister for Labor, the CS for Labor, Mheshimiwa Bore, came out and explained about the BLS, the bilateral labor agreements that need to be processed, and he said she has done about 26, and we need more. Yeah. And we were even being told that some of these countries have opened up, opportunities. So there were many, many things. Kindiki was being asked. Now he are being told here about labor migration. But you have a problem in your department in passports. And he was able to say, look, the normal per annum requirement is 500,000 passports per year. But now, because of this labor migration and all these opportunities coming, I have to do 3 million per year. That's the demand. Now, we have issues there. And I'm generating in that department 20 billion, in terms of appropriations in aid. Yeah. But I'm not getting anything back. So then discussions were held there. And going forward, they are going to be retaining at least 5 billion within that department so that they can improve on their services. So it was a very robust kind of engagement. And media wants to sell. So they would cut, pick, and say the president was ordering. I can tell you, he made his case. And people made their opinions known and questions known. Ministers also talked. And the environment, as described by Honorable Kagusha, was camaraderie. The president was even in a T-shirt, and we were talking, having tea, doing what. It was a different environment away from the normal. Okay. So for someone, even that clip, when you look at it, you'd see he was laughing, And if you looked the proper thing, the whole thing, it had all these elements I'm talking about. It is not right to try and, say that members of parliament are being whipped, do this and that and that and that, and you
Ridiculous.
must. They're trying to portray a figure of a dictator president. It is not true.
All right.
President Ruto, even during the campaigns, even during recruiting and building this party, UDA, and even bringing the other friends who have joined us in the Kenya Kwanza coalition, he talks, he is persuasive. He doesn't tell you, if you don't do this, we are going to do this. Okay. It's not the Moi type of thing.
Yeah.
It is not. I want Kenyans listening to me that we have a leader who takes his job extremely seriously.
Okay.
And he pushes his agenda.
Yeah.
And he doesn't threaten you. Mheshimiwa has told you, and I will tell you my experiences. Many other people will tell you their experiences, interaction. He has never said, if you don't do it, my friend, we are going to throw you out. It never works like that.
Let me bring in
let me just finish. If there were people who should be even more worried, it's not members of parliament. You can't fire a member of parliament.
Okay.
Honorable Wamuchomba was voting against us in the other, and nothing has happened to her. You can't fire a member of parliament.
Okay.
You can't fire a senator. If there were people who should be shouted at, it is the cabinet secretaries. But even them, they will not tell you that same story. But media has to sell. So I want Kenyans to listen that we have a president who makes his case.
Okay.
He makes his case even with leaders, with respect, and people are persuaded to move in a certain.
Okay. Manzo, finish it on these housing issues that we talk about.
You can make a case,
yes,
but at the same time force your way. The way you threaten members of parliament is by making sure that next election, they will not run in your party, and you will use all the government machinery to make sure that they are not re-elected. That's how members of parliament get threatened. But all in all, we are going to do our level best as the Senate, and wherever there are issues which are not agreed by, or force is used, or influence of that nature, then we are going to go back to court. That's why the courts are there. All that we are pleading with the government is that obey court orders. We are processing this bill against court orders. The president has promised to disobey court orders which he thinks have been acquired otherwise, or the judge has been biased. And there are processes to deal with the judiciary. So if we are dissatisfied and Kenyans are dissatisfied, we are going to go back to court. And we hope that the court will stop this illegal bill.
All right.
Because it is illegal.
All right. Let's bring up some of the feedback that you're saying on this housing issue, because we want to close on this, because we talk about something else. Yeah, that comes up on a different conversation. Let's bring up that in just a bit. But let's bring up feedback on the housing so that we talk about something else just now on the dailies as well. You're disservice if we don't touch on that. Let's see. JM Musoma says, why should government channel all its revenue outlets to eCitizen, yet it's run by private entities? That can be breeding zone for corruption, as witnessed in the 883 million coups scandal that regularly paid private universities for non-existent students. This is another conversation we're going to have just shortly. Engineer Dadaro says, Honorable Kagusha, MPs risk deleting their legislatives and oversight roles due to their partisan interests. Honorable Mugatana did seek any opinion of your electorate. Did you seek any opinion of your electorate over this housing levy? Parliament no longer is independent. Rubber stamp. Okay. Bobo Tieno says, sailing through of the housing bill is a major win to Kenya Kwanza. The buck now stops with President William Ruto. We will judge him by end of the day after completion of the affordable houses. Okay. Nixon says, I think affordable housing bill voting did not start yesterday in Parliament, but rather when the loyalists' bell rang in Naivasha. It was just a rubber stamping session in Parliament. The main reason why the minority absconded. Okay. You don't leave a name there, but you say, we never learn from history. In the 80s and 90s, Moi settled people on government land and built girls' schools. Today, the government is evicting those same people, and landladies are more than available jobs. Expensive, affordable is a problem in waiting. Okay? Godi says, the affordable housing debate seems to lack the requisite explanatory flesh around it. It appears that the Kenya Kwanza administration has not sufficiently broken down its concept to the opposition wing for a better understanding. JM says, I think Azimio MPs for opposing the housing bill, but I feel it's now time to change their strategy. Walking out of the chambers is like supporting the bill. let them now go to the constituencies of MPs who supported it and report them to their people. Okay? Ben says the executive has clearly outmuscled the legislature. The legislature, I think that's what you mean. And the common man has been left in the cold. Okay. Oundo, let me bring you in on this now, because this is a different conversation on the debt management in this country.